Sunday morning meditation class, sponsored by the Insight Meditation Community Washington, IMCW, founded by Tara Brach back about almost 30 years ago now, and lots of different teachers and programs and activities around the DC area and Maryland, Virginia, DC and beyond. And now with online, with people joining us from many places. And we're also, the class is offered as well through the Center for Mindful Living, which is part of IMCW. And we did have the physical space in Northwest DC until, I had to give it up during the pandemic. But very much a vibrant online, not just online, vibrant community, lots of things online, but also in-person activities, programs. And we'll be sharing, I think we are sharing links on there to various activities, many activities, from storytelling to poetry to gardening and a whole, just a whole range of Sangha-led activities, as well as, teacher-led programs and regular meditation. So, so we've had a Sunday morning class within IMCW for over 20 years now. And so it's always good to take a break from Meet the Press and Face the Nation and all of those things, and take time for kind of more of the inward journey, opening to what's present. So I'm Hugh Byrne. I've been teaching with IMCW for more than 20 years, what I'd like to focus on today is the theme of saying yes to life. To so many ways in which we resist life, we resist our experience, we come into conflict with, the way things are for us, the way things are in the world, and we get into kind of struggle and conflict. And while it's helpful to work to change what we can change and move things and, bend the arc of history, as it were, in the direction of justice and kindness, to do that from a place of acceptance, of, acknowledgement of the truth of life as it is, And so I'll be talking about that today, and kind of focusing with them in the meditation too on that theme of kind of opening fully to our experience as it is. So I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're having a good weekend. If you're joining us for the first time, please feel free to just share where you're joining us from or what brings you here, and just to let you know that you're welcomed and everyone is welcome wherever, however you're showing up and whoever you're showing up as, whatever, that all parts of you are welcome, and you're very welcome in this community. So good to be with you all today. Emily, do you feel okay about we will leading the movement after the meditation, and then we'll go into the talk? Thank you. Sounds good. All right. So we'll begin just in terms of the format of the class. We'll begin with a period of meditation, about probably 20 minutes or so, and then Emily will lead us in some movement, and then I'll talk about, share reflections about the theme for today, as I mentioned, saying yes to life, or the other side of the coin, ending our conflict with reality, life as it is. And then we'll have maybe some time at the end for sharing or questions and announcements, and then we'll finish at 12 today. And typically, people, if you want to, we stay around for about half an hour afterwards. I may be able to stay for a little while today as well afterwards. So again, welcome to everyone, and just invite you to consciously come into a posture that's as comfortable and relaxed as you can be for this period of meditation. The invitation is to sit in a way the way you're not straining or tensing up, but you can be relaxed. So letting the spine be straight and invite the shoulders to relax and settle. Let the hands rest wherever they're comfortable, in the lap or on the knees or on the thighs. And if you're comfortable, you could let your eyes close, let your attention come inward. If you prefer, you can keep them open. It's helpful just to have a soft, unfocused gaze if your eyes are open, not looking at anything in particular, just looking ahead of you. Or just letting the attention come inward, letting the eyes close. And letting your awareness come into the body. Letting go of thoughts. You might consciously kind of choose to put aside thoughts about the past, thoughts about the future, so that you can be as fully here as you can be for this time of meditation. You can come back later, to plans, memories, just to be as fully here as you can be. You might find it helpful to take a few longer, deeper breaths to help you settle and arrive. So a nice, full, deep in-breath, filling the lungs, filling the chest. And then releasing, letting go on the out-breath. Breathing in, calming the body. Breathing out, calming the mind. Letting the breath be an invitation to relax and settle, to be here. On the out breath, just releasing any holding, any tension. So you might imagine you're just breathing that out. Breathing out tightness, stress, tension. You might take a moment or two to reflect on some things in your life that you feel grateful for. Just kind of inclining the mind in that direction of gratitude. It's a way of gladdening the heart, gladdening the mind. There's so much that we can appreciate, but often we're focused on, what's wrong or what we need or what we lack. Just choosing to reflect on what we have, People in our lives, conditions, the wonders of nature, all freely given to us. So all the spiritual teachings that have come down to us through the ages. Just let yourself open to whatever is present for you right now, whatever's alive in your awareness, the body and heart, the mind. And just make space for whatever is here right now. Whatever bodily feelings or sensations are present. See if you can just make space for what's here, letting them come, letting them be, and letting them go when they're ready to go. Just inviting an attitude of acceptance and of kindness towards whatever is present for you right now, whatever emotions or mind states are present. See how it'd be to just allow them to be here, let them come, let them be, and let them go. Just notice what's present. See if you can just make space for whatever is here. Meet whatever's arising with an attitude of acceptance. Meeting it with kindness. Whatever comes up, meeting it without judgment. If it's helpful, you might just let your attention rest on your breathing. This is a way of stabilizing the attention and really having a home base that you can rest your attention on the experience of the in-breath and the out-breath. And then when the mind goes off into thought, plans, memories, daydreams, worries, when you notice that the mind has gone, moved into thought, you can just gently and kindly let the attention come back to the body, come back to the breath, come back to this moment, come out of any story you might have been caught up in. Just gently inclining the mind back. Just notice how it is to open to whatever is coming up. You might notice the mind at times has a preference for one thing rather than another. Oh, I like this, I don't like that. You might tighten up or push away an experience. When you notice that, just see if you can allow whatever is here to be here. Just let yourself feel it. If there was a feeling of sadness, for example, you might just be aware of where you're feeling that in the body. It might be in the face, around the eyes, or around the chest, around the heart. Just allow yourself to open and feel whatever is present. Let it come and let it be, let it go. Notice the mind, the thoughts that might come up around it. Just notice them, let them go too. So that nothing is excluded from our awareness, from our kindness. So we're meeting life as it is, expressing itself moment to moment. You might ask, is there anything in the way of being truly at peace in this moment? Free of suffering in this moment? The mind might say, well, I could be at peace if I wasn't feeling so tired or restless or annoyed. You might then just kind of invite a quality of acceptance and kindness towards those feelings or those states. Whatever you're experiencing right now, can this be a moment of peace? As Dorothy Hunt says, peace is this moment without judgment, this moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. How is it to welcome all the guests that come to visit? How is it to say yes to life as it's expressing itself right now? This is by William Stafford, a poem called Starting Here. Starting here, what do you want to remember? How sunlight creeps along a shining floor? What scent of old wood hovers? What softened sound from outside fills the air? Will you ever bring a better gift for the world than the breathing respect that you carry wherever you go right now? Are you waiting for time to show you some better thoughts? When you turn around, starting here, lift this new glimpse that you found. Carry into evening all that you want from this day. This interval you spent reading or hearing this, keep it for life. What can anyone give you greater than now, starting here, right in this room when you turn around? How is it to say yes to what you're experiencing? To say yes to life as it is right now? To say yes to the difficult as well as the pleasant, the joyful. So taking a time, coming, opening your eyes, coming back. So we'll take some moments for some mindful movement with Emily, and then we'll have the talk today, saying yes to life.
Thank you, Hugh. What a wonderful meditation. And just take a moment to shift, finding your feet, just shifting from side to side. And then starting low, open up your arms to just sway at hip height. Enjoying this moment. Simple sway. And then drawing your arms up, opening up the upper back, feeling those muscles as you take a look in one direction and then the other. Just finding yourself in this space. And then open up wide, expanding, just feeling your shoulders and arms, and then lifting up, reaching up. Exhale, soften your shoulders. Grasp your left wrist in your right hand. Extend up with an inhale, and then tilt over towards the right, shifting your left hip out as you make the C on the right side. Soften that right shoulder, right elbow. Exhaling. Inhale up, switch wrists. Extending up on the right side. Exhale, soften over. Lengthening the right side as you soften the left shoulder. Breathing in. Exhaling, releasing. Inhale up. Float your arms down. Roll your shoulders together. Roll them the other way. Draw your hands into cactus arms. Breath in, exhale, float the arms down. Inhale, rise. Exhale, down. Inhale, rise up. Extend the arms out. Take a look at your left palm turned up. Take a breath in and move to the other side, flipping that right palm up. Inhale over to the left, to the right. Last time to the left, to the right. Float your arms down, move your shoulders independently. And the other way. Now we're going to move into a forward bend. Find your hip crease where your body meets your thighs, and shift and lengthen your spine here. Breath in, shifting down to above your knees, extending again, feeling your calf muscles. And then drop the head, drop the shoulders, lowering down, allowing the length of your spine as you support yourself with the energy from your feet, from your legs, the strength of your pelvis as you drop down. Breathing in, exhaling just a little bit further down. And then draw your hands above your knees. Tuck your tailbone under. Slowly inhale up, shifting so you draw your shoulders up around your ears, drop them down, find yourself in this space, in this moment, in mountain pose. But just for a moment, place your hands at the back of your waist, breathing in, lifting the chest, lifting the head. Exhale, dropping your arms behind you, the hands below the waist, drawing in your shoulder blades, and release. Drop your chin to your chest, your hands to your waist. Breathing in here. And one more time, lifting up your head, dropping your hands down. And back to your waist. Drop your chin to your chest. Lifting your chin up, release, float your arms and just move. You could be a windmill. And go the other way, however you have been. Now come to center. Draw your arms up, placing your hands above your head, palms together, finding that center line. Breathing in and on and exhale, draw your hands to your heart, centering. Shift so your hands are directed to everyone here, wishing them kindness. Down to the earth, appreciating the earth for what it gives us. And then whoosh, lifting your arms up, palms to your heart, and take a bow. Thank you for your practice.
Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you. It's lovely to get into the body. So thank you, Emily, and welcome anyone who may have joined us after we started. I think a few folks have. Welcome to our Sunday morning meditation. I'm going to and class. I'm going to be talking today on the theme of saying yes to life. You know, that this is really the heart of our practice, saying yes to life. Another way of putting it would be ending our conflict with reality, ending our conflict with life. You know, the ways in which we do get in conflict with life as it's unfolding. We like what we like, and we we don't like what we don't like, and we get attached, and we suffer when we cling. And I'll be speaking about that today. Sylvia asked the name of the poem. It's William Stafford, and it's called "Starting Here," that I shared at the end of the meditation. I begin this reflection with something you might have heard from the 17th century French philosopher, writer, investigator, Blaise Pascal. And he said, all of humanity's misfortunes come from man's or our inability to sit quietly in a room alone. All of humanity's misfortunes come from our inability to sit quietly in a room alone. And I think I find that a very powerful reflection, and with a lot of truth in it. That when we're not able to stay with our discomforts and our pain and our difficulties, we tend to act them out. We tend to, like, this isn't okay, I got to do this. And then we get in conflict with ourselves. We come into a kind of division and separation within ourselves. And out of that can come division and separation and conflict in the larger world. In Buddhist teachings, it's basically understood that the wars and the conflicts and the violence and all this kind of collective suffering in the world actually begins in the human heart. It begins in, if we were all able to let life be life and, go with the flow of life, accept life as it's unfolding and not resist, and not come into, clinging and aversion and these, afflictive states, then there wouldn't be any conditions that would give rise to these conflicts. The conditions would be much more to live in harmony with each other, with kind of calm and peace. We're obviously not close to that right now. And a large part of it, I think, is our inability to cope with and open to our own experience. I quoted before great Cambodian teacher, monk, Mahagosananda, who was visiting Washington 25 or so years ago and around supporting the campaign to ban landmines. And I remember him saying at the steps of the Capitol, he said, in order to uproot the landmines from the earth, we need to uproot the landmines from our own hearts. And I find there's just so much truth in that if we can deal with our own suffering and our own pain and our own difficulties, then we have no basis, we no need in a way to act it out, in harmful and conflictual ways in the world. I want to share, I remember this from a few years ago, and it came back to me, just a very powerful example of Pascal's, statement about humanity's misfortunes and people not wanting to sit quietly in a room. You might have heard of this study. This was about 10 years ago. And they took, it was a study of people were asked to sit quietly in a room, as with Pascal. They recruited a lot of undergraduate students. This was at the University of Virginia, and basically their job was to just put aside, they didn't have any pens or notebooks or cell phones or whatever. They put all of that aside and just to be with their thoughts, be with whatever came up for them. And they found, when they first did the study, they found that people didn't like just didn't like just sitting in a room quietly in a room alone. And then they made the investigation a little bit more interesting, and they provided the participants with a button that they could push, and this button allowed them to shock themselves, to give themselves an electric shock. And the report of the study is the results were startling. Even though all the participants had previously stated that they would pay money to avoid being shocked with electricity, so that was the precondition they checked, oh yeah, I don't want to be shocked. Nonetheless, the majority of the participants actually shocked themselves rather than sit quietly in a room alone. Very interesting. Subtext, a subpart of this was that 67% of the men and 25% of the women shocked themselves, gave themselves electric shocks rather than, sit quietly in a room alone, And I got a lot of coverage at the time, but I found this a very interesting thing. I mean, basically, it's so stressful, so difficult for many people to just be with what's here, sit quietly in a room with the thoughts. You could imagine, well, you could fantasize about being at the beach, you could think about happy memories, but obviously people, it was more the troubling things, the worries, or the things that, kind of are difficult for people that they didn't want to be with. And they'd prefer to do anything, even giving themselves an electric shock, rather than to be just sit quietly in a room alone. One of the investigators at the study said, suggested that the results may be mixed signs of boredom and the trouble we have in controlling our thoughts. He said, I think our mind is built to engage in the world. So when we give it anything to focus on, it's kind of hard to know what to do. So if you're given a choice of shocking yourself, then, at least I can do something here, Anyway, that I found that you can make what you will of this. You think of people who are regular meditators. I mean, if somebody said to me, take 15 minutes and just sit quietly, I'd say, oh, great. I can meditate for 15 minutes, and whatever comes up. But the majority of people still are not meditators and are more thinkers, and their thoughts are, not necessarily easy for them to be with. So all of this kind of leading to this talk today on the importance and the power of saying yes to life. If you were a meditator, a practitioner, and you were given those instructions, just be quiet, sit quietly in a room. I mean, I think what we would do is what we do in meditation. We'd kind of like open, maybe we'd focus attention on our breathing, and we just open to whatever is arising, and notice when we're going off into thought, and have ways of coming back to what's here, coming back to the body, coming back to the breath as we do. And it might be, as some meditation sometimes is, it might be a kind of a little challenging, it might be difficult, you might be tired, or you might be restless, but you would, you'd work with that, as we do in meditation. So the theme really is the value, the importance, the power of saying yes to life, to really having that as an orientation, a way of approaching both our practice, formal practice, but also life. Not to get into conflict with reality. And I kind of unpack that as we go today. And it really kind of, one of the themes I want to share is that our willingness to say yes to life as it is, as it is coming up, as it's coming up in my experience right now, as I'm talking here, as comes up for you as you're sitting and aware of your experience and taking in whatever's being shared. That our willingness to open wholeheartedly to what we're experiencing is perhaps the most important determinant of our happiness and freedom. That our willingness to be with our experience is a key component of, a key element in whether we live happily, joyfully, peacefully, ultimately freely, free of conflict. Choosing how we meet our experience is the key. And at the heart of that is saying yes to our experience as it is. So I want to explore how resisting life, resisting our experience, getting into a struggle with how things are, what's coming up for us, how this leads to division within ourselves, a sense of a divided self, really. A sense of a divided consciousness. We're here, but we're wanting something else, and how that is really tied to suffering. So on one hand, how saying yes to our experience, so just meeting what is here, opening to it, allowing it, letting it be, letting it come and go, how that really is the doorway to living a free and happy, joyful life. And resisting is a recipe for suffering. That's the core what I'm sharing. The Buddha encapsulated his teachings, and he said, nothing whatsoever should be clung to as I or mine. So basically his teaching is that when we cling, when we try to control our experience, we're kind of holding on to what we want and pushing away what we don't want and escaping from what's kind of boring or uninteresting. When we do that, that leads us to suffering. That leads us to division, to a sense of separation from ourselves, from others, from life, and to suffering when we cling. So clinging for the Buddha was at the core of our suffering. And freedom comes from letting go of clinging, of kind of seeing that, that we're holding on, and seeing that isn't serving us, that's only leading to unhappiness, to suffering. And so he taught the pathway to letting go of clinging, the pathway to freedom, is to be willing to open to our experience here and now. That awakening to, the deepest freedom comes from opening fully to our experience. So the heart of our practice is to meet whatever is arising with acceptance and without judgment. Really to say yes to everything, to let go of the struggle with reality, with life. This is really at the heart of the Buddha's refuges. The Buddha spoke of taking refuge in the Buddha, in awakening, taking refuge in the Dharma. And that's really taking refuge in life as it's unfolding. So what I'm talking about is coming into a relationship of really alignment with life as it is. It doesn't mean we don't try and change things that we can change. Yes, we can, and we do. But when we make change, that also needs to come from a place of acceptance, of accepting that this is life as it is right now. So the second of the refuges is taking refuge in the Dharma, in the truth, taking refuge in life. So refuge in life right now would be, what am I aware of? What am I experiencing? What am I noticing right now? And can I let whatever is here be? Let it come. Can I let it be? And when it's ready, let it go. everything has this characteristic of, impermanence. It comes, it stays for a while, and it goes. An emotion, if we bring awareness to an emotion, we have that feeling of sadness or calm or peace, and then something will happen, it'll change, it'll come, it'll go. And so if we can come into a relationship with all of our experience that allows life to be life, let life be life, and, opening, accepting, then that really is the doorway to happiness, to peace. Another way of putting it is, it's not just a doorway, it is happiness and peace, because we're in alignment with life. We're at peace with the way things are, even if it's difficult. If we're meeting it fully, really, it actually transforms. So, for example, even something that we're saying, oh, this is really difficult. If we bring acceptance to that, then it actually shifts what we're experiencing. The way Eckhart Tolle puts it is, what you accept fully, you go beyond. What you accept fully, you go beyond. That it's no longer, you're no longer hooked by it if you're accepting it, if you're opening to it. Then, it comes and goes. It doesn't stop pain being pain, but it stops, if you like, the add-on, the resistance that we're bringing to the pain. We're accepting that this is how life is right now. And so really it's a transforming our relationship to our experience by how we meet this moment, how we meet each moment. The truth is, I think for all of us, until we've gone beyond clinging completely, is that there are many ways in which we resist life, we resist reality, we resist the truth, and we experience suffering in doing that. Have any of you ever complained about things? I don't like this. Why are they doing this? Why are they keeping me waiting? Why is this person doing this? Why is this situation like this? Why are there so many cars on the road? Whatever it might be. Basically, when we're complaining, we're in conflict with life, aren't we? Whatever we're complaining about is reality at that moment. It could be that, like, the person, who the customer service person on the phone is keeping you waiting too long. So you're complaining, whether you're doing it to yourself or to another person, doesn't really matter, because it's still, the mind is still in that complaining place. There's there's reality and there's how we want things to be. And reality right now is not being how we want it to be. We want it to be one way. We want to move quickly through this. We want the cars to go away. We want this thing, we want things to be comfortable and to meet our expectations. And yet, reality is reality. This is how things are right now. So when we get into conflict with that, with reality, I don't want this to be like this. I don't want this person to be like this right now. Then good luck with that one, because that is how they are being right now. Yes, maybe they can change. Maybe you can encourage them to change. Maybe not, but the truth is, at this moment, life is like this. They are as they are. The situation is as it is. And when we're in conflict with that, we are going to suffer. We're going to feel divided, separated, because we're here and we're wanting things to be there. In all of these examples I'm going to give you, there's that sense of a here and a there. Life is like this, and I want it to be like that. So complaining is one example. Being annoyed or frustrated are other expressions very similar to it. Being worried or stressed out about things. What's happening there? Well, we're in this there's something going on that's hard for us. We're feeling tight and tense. We're having a lot of thoughts about the future. Stress, worry is always about the future. Anxiety is about the future. And we're wanting something, but we're getting something else. We're having these worried thoughts. We're getting the tension in the body. We don't like this. It's uncomfortable. So we get into our minds and we want things to change. I need to do something to change this. Oh, if I do more things, then I'll be able to get all the things done and I won't have to feel these difficult feelings. I'll deal with it in that way. But as long as we're here and we want to be there, we want things to be different, there's going to be a gap, there's going to be separation, there's going to be a division, and that's going to be experienced as suffering. As the Buddha talked about, as clinging, we want this, we're getting something else, we're suffering when we do this. We're suffering when we experience this. There's always, when there's suffering, there's always a gap between how things are and how we want them to be. There's a difference there. When we're clinging to something that we want, the present moment is not good enough because I need this. I need this drink. I need this food. I need this experience. I need this person. Whatever it is, we need something that we're not having right now. Oh, I'd feel so much better if I had that. And when the mind gets tied up in that, there's inevitably going to be suffering. There's going to be a gap between reality as it is and how we want things to be. So in all of these cases, there's a struggle that we're having with reality. We're in conflict with reality. We're here and we're wanting to be there. We're feeling this, but we're wanting to feel that. Similarly, with things we don't like. This person is doing these things I'm not liking. They're saying things I disagree with, for example, and I don't like that. And so with that sense of separation, I'm here, I'm experiencing something unpleasant. But rather than be with the unpleasantness, to accept that this is how life is right now, I'm caught up in my mind about how they should be different, or the situation should be different, the experience should be different. So whenever we get into that division, we suffer. We experience a gap, a division, and we suffer. So essentially here we're saying no to life. We're wanting life to be different than it is. And when we want life to be different than it is, good luck with that one. Have you had experience of making life different than it is? Yes, we can try and change things that we find are inappropriate, unacceptable, harmful. We can do all of that. That's not in contradiction to what I'm talking about. But we don't do it through denial of what is. We have to begin from where we are. This is what's here. And the feelings that I'm having about it are what's here. And if I can open to all of that, then out of that, then what I do to try to change things will be coming from a place of acceptance and from alignment rather than from a place of resistance. What we're often doing when we want to change something is we're clinging, like it's got to be this way. And then we're bringing that energy of clinging into the work that we're doing or whatever we're doing to try and change things. And we're actually making the situation worse there. So even when we change, it needs to come from this place of alignment with reality, with acceptance of this is how life is right now. James Baldwin said, not everything that you face can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Not everything that you face can be changed. Not everything that you experience, that you acknowledge, that you accept can be changed. It doesn't magically change things. But unless you face them, unless you face the truth of how things are, Nothing can be changed. So everything, really, any change has to come from acceptance of the truth as it is, acceptance of life as it is. So whenever we get caught up in these kinds of separation, like I'm here, but I want it to be there. I'm clinging, I'm pushing away, I'm resisting, I'm complaining, I'm annoyed, I'm frustrated. Often, most of the time, I think we're in a story. There's some story that this should be different. This situation, this experience, this person should be different. It shouldn't be like this. And when we're caught up in that, there's a division within ourselves. There's a divided self, really. There's a me, this is how things are, but I don't want this. I want things to be different. And then what comes from that is suffering. So we really have two alternative paths. One is to fight with reality and see how that unfolds. The other is to accept reality, to accept life as it is, and then to act, to do what we can, to change what we need to change, all of that. But and that latter path, that second path, saying yes to what is, ending the struggle with reality, is really the doorway. As the Buddha taught, and as other contemporary and other teachers of awakening have taught, this is the pathway to the deepest freedom, to accept life and accept this moment as it is, to meet it wholeheartedly. I've probably shared, you may have heard me or others share this quote from Anthony de Mello, the Jesuit writer and teacher, philosopher. He said, enlightenment, complete freedom from suffering, is absolute cooperation with the inevitable. Enlightenment is absolute cooperation with the inevitable. It's really coming into alignment with life as it is, accepting that reality right now is reality and cooperating with it, cooperating with life as it is. This is really what the Buddha is saying, taking refuge in the Dharma, in the truth. This is what's here. So whatever is here is here. And it serves us, it serves happiness, it serves freedom and peace to meet this moment as it is, to meet the truth as it is, the reality as it is right now, without resistance, without judgment. So the heart of our spiritual practice is really to turn towards our experience and face it fully. I share some quotes from a couple of the current, very wise contemporary teachers. This first one is from Eckhart Tolle on this kind of theme of opening to life. He says, make the now the primary focus of your life. Always say yes to the present moment. What could be more futile, more insane than to create inner resistance to something that already is? What could be more insane than to oppose life itself, which is now and always now? He says, surrender to what is. Say yes to life. And see how life suddenly starts working for you rather than against you. I think that last reflection is a very powerful one. That when we say yes to life, we're actually come into alignment with life. Just as when we say no to life, then we come into this struggle that we can't win, because life will always be life. This moment will be always be as it is. However, wherever it came from, whatever the causes and conditions are, some of them are what we've done ourselves and the choices we've made and the actions we've taken. Some of them will be coming from kind of the world more largely, more broadly. This moment, but when this moment is here, it is as it is. And our happiness is very much tied to how we respond to what is. Can we cooperate with reality, with life as it is? And if we don't cooperate with life as it is, we will experience unhappiness, we'll experience suffering. It's not that we're being a bad person or we're somehow failing, but we're missing something very important. It's like we're walking along the road and there's a big hole in the road, but our consciousness is somewhere else, and we fall down the hole, because we're just not aware. And so in the same way, if we allow, if our mind goes into, I need this in order to be okay, or I need that to be different in order to be okay, then inevitably there's going to be pain in that. Inevitably there's going to be suffering. So the way out is always to come back to what is here right now, and to meet it wholeheartedly, to meet it with acceptance and with kindness, to come back into alignment with life rather than to be in conflict with life. This is from Adyashanti, another contemporary teacher of awakening. It's from his book, The End of Your World. And this is about ending the struggle with reality. He says, we may think, so-and-so shouldn't have said that to me. Ever been in the position of somebody saying something? They shouldn't have said that to me. That was mean. That was unkind. So we get into, they shouldn't have done this. And we get into all the stories about, they're this, they're that. I can't be their friend. And, all of that can come from that. He said, but the reality is that they did. As soon as the mind says something shouldn't have happened, we experience internal division. It's immediate. Why do we experience division? Because we're in an argument with reality. We're in an argument with reality. Maybe, you could say, they shouldn't have said this, and this person shouldn't have done this, and that was bad for them to do this. You can say that as a kind of judgment, but if we're kind of resisting the truth of what that is, what was said, then that's where we get into trouble. That's where we get into suffering. He goes on to say, this much is assured. If we argue with reality for any reason, we will go into division. We'll get to become divided within ourselves. That's just the way it works. Reality is simply what is. As soon as we have anything in us that judges it, that condemns it, that says it shouldn't be, we'll feel division. We'll feel that dividedness within ourselves. When we come into a deeper realms of reality, we realize there isn't a justified reason to argue with reality, because we'll never win that fight. We'll never win the fight with reality. Arguing with reality is a sure way to suffer, a perfect prescription for suffering. So the invitation, I think, for us is to recognize when we actually do come into a struggle with reality, when we resist life as it is. We get into, this shouldn't be like this. And I want to make a distinction between kind of a discerning judgment about things. We could look at things in the world and say, yes, this shouldn't be happening. This killing shouldn't be happening, or this, this conflict shouldn't be happening, this invasion shouldn't be happening. We can say that, and we can work to change, to protest, to act, to do whatever we need to do. And that can all come from a place of accepting the truth. This is what's real. This is what's happening. We're not fighting reality. We're working to change what we can change. And there's a great wisdom in doing that. But when we're resisting reality, when we are in conflict with life as it is, as it's manifesting, as it's expressing right now, we will inevitably suffer. And do we want to suffer? Do we want to stay in that place? So think about in your own life, where do you go into division? Where do you go into fighting with life? Is it with a friend who is acting in a way that feels like they're being inconsiderate, they're being mean, that none of this precludes having a conversation with somebody and saying, look, I'm noticing this and I'm feeling this. That's very, very wise to do. But when we get in a struggle, they shouldn't be doing this. This shouldn't be happening. Or something is going on at work, where that we don't like it. We don't, you don't like what a supervisor or boss is doing or colleague is doing and how they're acting. And, but if they're doing what they're doing, again, we can, have a wise and compassionate conversation. Good to do. But when we're like, this shouldn't be happening, then that's when we suffer. So how do we work with that? So the invitation to just look at areas of our own life where we are in a struggle with reality, where we're holding on to this should be different than it is. I don't want this. I don't like this. This shouldn't be happening. They shouldn't be doing this. It's really the clinging that's the problem. It's not, we can discern that is, that's unkind, that's not acceptable, whatever. But it's the clinging that gives rise to the suffering as the Buddha teaches. The key is always, when we do find ourselves divided, separated, clinging, is to come back. Just say, can I be with this moment as it is? Can I open to the feelings, the sensations, the emotions, and let go of the story of how life should be different or this person should be different. They are being as they are, and maybe they'll continue to be as they are. And we can, again, we can have conversations and change what we can change. But when we hold on to reality being different than it is, we're going to suffer. The key is always just to come back to the present moment. Tibetan teacher Chogyam Trungpa talks about coming back to square one. I like that. Kind of square one. It's coming back to, we always have the capacity to come back to what is here right now, what is alive in us, the tightness, the tension that we're feeling because the situation isn't how we want it to be. The thoughts in our mind, they should be like this. This should be different. The emotions we're feeling, the sadness, the anger, whatever. But we allow that. We make a space, to let all that be here. We have a full internal opening, wholehearted opening to what's present, rather than being in the story of how things should be different. Pema Chodron, I'm sure many of you are familiar with her teachings. She says we need to learn to stay, because when we are in conflict with reality, it's difficult for us, it's painful. So coming back to our experience, she says, learn to stay with uneasiness, learn to stay with the tightening, learn to stay with the itch and the urge of Shempa. That's the kind of when we're attached to something, that kind of, clinging on, holding on. learn to stay so that the habitual chain reaction doesn't continue to rule our lives, and the patterns that we consider unhelpful don't keep getting stronger as the days and the months and the years go by. So learning to stay. So the practice, the training is the coming back to, what am I aware of right now? And can I meet this wholeheartedly? In a way, it's such a simple teaching that to end the struggle with reality. But it's the teaching that leads all the way to the deepest freedom, to the deepest letting go. And it's not easy because we have so much conditioning, so many habits that take us away. If we've spent our life complaining about things, life isn't the way I want it to be, or judging people, or thinking that we need this to be happy, then to make change in those patterns typically takes a lot of kind of willingness to be with experience, willingness to be with what doesn't feel comfortable to be with. Expanding that capacity to be with difficult experiences, to turn the obstacles, the things that we see as obstacles or difficulties, to make them into the path, to make them into our practice of like, oh yeah, this is difficult and I'm going to be with this. I can be with this. And then I notice that I run away again. Oh, and I can come back again. We can always come back to the present moment. That's, for me, one of the most inspiring things about these teachings and practices is that we can always begin again. We can always come back. We fall over 50 times. We can get up again and come back and say, okay, here right now, can I meet this moment with kindness rather than judging myself for falling down the hole again, and come back and say, okay, can I be with this? Yes, this moment as it is, this moment without judgment. As Jung said, what is not brought to consciousness comes to us as fate. When we're acting unconsciously, that's what our life turns into. We keep acting things out, and it comes out as in our life. We keep doing things as that. I know who this originated this, but we say, sow a thought, reap an act. Sow an act, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. So from the thought comes the act, comes the habit, comes the character, comes the destiny. Without consciousness, it just kind of plays itself out in that way. But the key is to bring consciousness in. Again, Eckhart Tolle says, anything unconscious dissolves in the light of awareness, in the light of consciousness. Any part of ourselves that we're not bringing awareness to, once we shine the light of consciousness on it, we become conscious of it, and we can see where we're falling down the hole and what leads to us falling down the hole, and we can move in a different direction. So again, just to come back to that, the theme of it doesn't mean we don't change things. It doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean, saying yes to life isn't like, oh, whatever, it's not that kind of like, oh, because that's another form of resistance. It's wholeheartedly, as I think he got it from T.S. Eliot, but Philip Moffat, the meditation teacher, his book, it's called Dancing with Life on the Four Noble Truths. We come into, life becomes something, we're in a relationship with life. We're part of life, and we're interacting with everything that comes up in life in a fluid way, dancing with life, rather than wrestling with life, resisting it, got to change this, got to make this the way I want to. We end that kind of struggle, that conflict with life. We come into a fluid relationship to life. This is again how Eckhart Tolle puts it. He says, to be in alignment with what is, when I'm talking about saying yes to life, means to be in a relationship of inner non-resistance with what happens, inner non-resistance to what happens. It means not to label it mentally as good or bad, but to let it be. To let it be, to let true reality be as it is. And then he asks, does this mean that you can no longer take action to bring about change in your life? Does this mean that you can no longer take action to bring about change in your life or change in the world more broadly? I'll add that as well. He says, on the contrary, when the basis of your action is inner alignment with the present moment, your actions become empowered by the intelligence of life itself. So everything I'm talking about is about that inner alignment with the present moment. When we come into that alignment with life, with the present moment, then he says, our actions become empowered by the intelligence of life itself. So life is working with us and for us rather than us being wrestling with life, being in conflict with life. So the encouragement today is to say yes to our experience, to say yes in our meditation, to say yes in our lives. So if we're in conflict with a friend or a partner or a family member, you might kind of just come inward and say yes to what's happening. Say yes to the tightness. Say yes to the mind thinking they should be doing differently. And from that acceptance may come a way of being and a way of interacting that is more conducive to beneficial change. I'm sorry I went on a little bit longer today. I get a bit enthusiastic. So just leaving you with the thought, maybe in the days ahead, of looking at where you come into division, wanting things to be other than they are, wanting things to be different, being in a struggle with life, and then being able to, making the choice to come back to the present moment. Say yes to this moment. And from there can come, the door opens, I think, to the deepest freedom and letting go. So thank you for your kind attention. I hope this is helpful. Hope it gives some food for thought, food for practice.